It started with the happiest phone call of my life. My little brother Ethan had just closed on the white Colonial we'd driven past 1,000 times, the one Mom dreamed of rocking on the porch, Dad planting tomatoes in the backyard. Balloons, cake, tears of joy. We toasted to miracles. Then the cracks appeared. Changed locks, new rules, mortgage in his name only, thousands vanishing into his girlfriend's account. Dad's life insurance quietly switched, a forged will that cut me out completely. What began as gratitude turned into suspicion, then betrayal, then a courtroom showdown that shattered our family forever. This is the true story of how one beautiful house destroyed the people who loved it most, and the hard lesson I learned about love, loyalty, and when forgiveness has limits.
I can still close my eyes and hear the exact pitch of my phone vibrating against the glass coffee table in my tiny Chicago apartment. It was 7:42 p.m. on a dreary Thursday in mid-October, the kind of rain that doesn't pour so much as it just hangs there, soaking everything slowly. I just kicked off my boots after a 12-hour shift at the marketing firm, still smelling faintly of Subway and burnt coffee, when Mom's name lit up the screen. I answered on the second ring. "Sweetheart," she said, and her voice cracked right in the middle of the word, like she'd been holding back tears for hours. "You're not going to believe this. Ethan bought the house. The house, the one on Maple Lane, the one your dad and I used to drive by every Sunday after church and just stare at. He closed today. It's ours."
For a second, I couldn't speak. My brain short-circuited. Maple Lane. That white Colonial with the black shutters, the wide wraparound porch where Mom always said she'd put rocking chairs and watch fireflies on summer nights. The big bay window in the living room she daydreamed about hanging Christmas lights in. The half-acre backyard Dad swore had the perfect slope for a vegetable garden he never got around to planting. 30 years of someday. 30 years of Dad sighing, "One day, Ellen," while Mom pretended not to hear the defeat in his voice. And now Ethan, my baby brother, the kid who used to steal my Barbies and trade them for baseball cards, had made someday happen. I sank onto the couch, still in my coat. "Wait, he bought it? Like, outright?" Mom laughed, that shaky, watery laugh people make when they're too happy to trust it. "He says he's been saving for years, pulled it all together. Cash down payment, the works. The realtor called him a miracle buyer. Can you imagine? Our Ethan." I could imagine. Too easily. Ethan was 28, 5 years younger than me. But he'd always moved through life like he had cheat codes. High school quarterback turned community college dropout turned entrepreneur. He sold vintage sneakers online for a while, flipped cars, talked his way into a cushy sales job at a tech startup that paid him stupid money in commissions. He never stayed in one place long, but he always landed on his feet. Charming, quick with a smile, the kind of guy who could convince you the sky was green if he needed to borrow $20. Me, I was the steady one. The one who got the scholarships, the 9-to-5, the 401k contributions. The one who called Mom every Sunday and sent flowers on random Tuesdays just because. I'd been saving for years too, not for a dream house, but for stability. For the day I might need to help them if Dad's arthritis got worse, or Mom's blood pressure meds doubled again. And Ethan had beaten me to it. I felt a weird cocktail of emotions swirl in my chest. Pride, relief, a tiny pinch of something sharper I couldn't name yet. Jealousy? No, not exactly. More like surprise, that he'd done it without telling me, without even hinting. "That's incredible," I finally managed. "I'm coming home this weekend. I want to see their faces when we celebrate." Mom sniffled. "He wants to surprise them tomorrow night, but if you fly in Saturday, we'll do a big family thing. Balloons, cake, the whole 9 yards. Your dad's gonna cry, I just know it." I booked the ticket before we hung up. Red-eye Friday night, landing in Detroit at dawn, then the 2-hour drive to our little suburb outside Grand Rapids. I spent the next 36 hours in a daze, smiling at coworkers, packing an overnight bag, texting Ethan dumb emojis. Party hat, house, clap. He sent back a single thumbs up and a winking face. Classic Ethan,
Minimal effort, maximum charm. When I pulled into the driveway of our childhood home that Saturday afternoon, the place already looked different. Mom had strung fairy lights across the front porch, even though it wasn't even Halloween yet. Dad was outside in his old flannel, pretending to rake leaves that weren't really there. Ethan's black Jeep was parked crooked in the street like he owned the block. Inside, the living room smelled like vanilla candles and Mom's pot roast. Balloons bobbed against the ceiling, gold and white. Classy, not the cheap Mylar ones from the grocery store. A sheet cake sat on the dining table. Welcome home, Mom and Dad, in blue icing. Ethan stood in the middle of it all, arms wide, grinning like he'd just been crowned king. "You made it," he said, pulling me into one of those back-slapping hugs. He smelled like expensive cologne and fresh-cut grass. "Told you I'd pull it off." I hugged him back, hard. "You really did it, little bro. I'm proud of you." Mom was already tearing up again, clutching a glass of cheap Chardonnay like it was a lifeline. Dad kept clearing his throat, eyes shiny. We toasted with plastic cups. Me, Ethan, Mom, Dad, even Aunt Linda, who lived down the street and never missed a family event. "To new beginnings," Ethan said, raising his cup. "To giving them the life they deserve." Everyone echoed it. Glasses clinked. Mom kissed Ethan's cheek. Dad pulled him into a rare, gruff man hug. I watched it all with this warm glow in my chest, thinking maybe this was what family was supposed to feel like. Someone stepping up. No questions asked. No scorecard. But then I noticed it. Ethan had set the closing papers on the kitchen island like a trophy, thick stack, official looking. While Mom was slicing cake, I drifted over and flipped the top page. Just curious, just proud sister curious. There it was, the deed. Buyer, Ethan Michael Harper. Sole owner. No co-owners listed. No mention of Mom or Dad anywhere on the first page. I blinked, flipped to the mortgage disclosure. His name, his signature, his social security number. The loan amount was there, big, but not impossible for someone who'd been hustling like Ethan. Down payment, substantial. Source, personal funds and equity line. I felt my smile slip, just a fraction. Mom came up beside me, still beaming. "Isn't it beautiful? He wanted it in his name so he could handle everything. Taxes, maintenance, all that grown-up stuff. Your dad and I are just so relieved." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, relieved." Ethan caught my eye from across the room. He was laughing at something Aunt Linda said, but his gaze flicked to the papers, then back to me. For half a second, something shadowed his face. Not guilt exactly, more like calculation, like he'd seen me see it. Then the smile was back, bright and easy. "Hey sis, come try the cake. Mom outdid herself." I walked over, took a slice, smiled, laughed at the right moments. But that tiny shadow stayed with me the rest of the night, a whisper at the back of my mind. Why hadn't he put their names on it?
And why did it feel, just for a moment, like the house wasn't really theirs at all? I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was tired from the flight, that Ethan had always been the fixer, the one who charged in and saved the day. But deep down, in the quiet part of me that never quite trusted easy miracles, something had already begun to shift. The celebration ended late. Hugs, more tears, promises to visit the new place soon. As I drove back to my hotel, rain tapping the windshield like impatient fingers, I kept glancing at my phone. No new texts from Ethan, just the group chat blowing up with photos. Mom in the bay window she'd always wanted, Dad pretending to mow a lawn that wasn't his yet. I stared at the pictures until my eyes burned. Beautiful house, beautiful family moment. And yet, that shadow in his eyes when he looked at the deed. I didn't know it then, but that was the first crack, the first hint that what felt like a miracle was about to become something else entirely.
The glow from that Thanksgiving weekend celebration lasted exactly 8 weeks. 8 weeks of group text photos. Mom posing in the bay window with a mug of tea. Dad pretending to grill burgers on the new patio, even though it was November and 50 degrees. Ethan sending goofy selfies from the upstairs guest room he'd claimed as his temporary crash pad. Every picture came with captions like, "living the dream," and heart emojis from Mom. I'd reply with thumbs up and so happy for you guys, while sipping lukewarm coffee at my desk in Chicago, telling myself the pinch in my chest was just homesickness. Then the call came. It was a Tuesday evening in early December, the city already strung with Christmas lights that made everything look prettier than it felt. I was scrolling through emails when my phone rang, Mom's face popping up on the screen. I answered smiling. Hey Mom, how's the dream house treating you? There was a pause. Too long. Then her voice came through, small and thin, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. Sweetheart, I don't know how to say this.
My stomach dropped the way it does when you miss a step on stairs. What's wrong? Is Dad okay? He's fine, physically, but he's been sleeping in the guest room again, the one down the hall. Says the master bedroom feels wrong, too big, too quiet. He keeps waking up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling like he's waiting for something. I leaned back in my chair, frowning. Adjustment shock? New house, new sounds. Remember when we moved into the old place and he swore the furnace was haunted for a month? She gave a weak laugh that didn't reach her eyes. I could hear it. Maybe, but it's more than that. He's quieter, stares out the window a lot. And Ethan, another pause. Ethan's been so good, honey. He cooks dinner most nights, runs errands, even fixed that leaky faucet in the laundry room. But sometimes what? She lowered her voice, like someone might overhear. Sometimes it feels like the house isn't ours anymore, like we're guests. Ethan changed the thermostat settings last week, said it saves money. Now the heat barely comes on upstairs. Dad caught a chill and hasn't said much since. And the rules, little things. No shoes in the living room, lights out by 10. He says it's for their health, but your dad used to stay up till midnight reading his war history books. Now he turns the lamp off at 9:30 like a kid with a curfew.
I felt heat crawl up my neck. Mom, that's not right. It's their house. They should set the rules. I know, she whispered, but Ethan's paying most of the mortgage now. He says we couldn't afford it without him. The property taxes alone are brutal. He's helping, and I'm grateful. I miss feeling like it's home. I sat up straight. Wait, mortgage? I thought he paid cash, or close to it. Another long silence. He took out a loan, in his name. We co-signed because, well, the interest rate was good, and he promised it was temporary, just until he refinanced or sold something. He's got that side business, you know, the online thing with the vintage stuff. He says it's all under control. My mouth went dry. You co-signed? Both of you? Your dad was nervous, but Ethan showed us the numbers, said it was the only way to get the house before someone else snatched it. The market was hot. We didn't want to lose it. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mom, why didn't anyone tell me? You were so busy with work. And Ethan said he didn't want to worry you, that he had it handled. Of course he did. I ended the call promising to call Dad the next day, but my mind was already racing. I opened my laptop and pulled up the county property records site. I'd bookmarked it after peeking at the deed that weekend. Typed in the address on Maple Lane. Hit search. The record loaded slowly.
Owner, Ethan Michael Harper. Mortgage holder, First National Bank. Loan origination date, October 15th. Closing day. Co-signers, Ellen Harper, Robert Harper. No mention of them as owners, just co-signers. Liable if he defaulted. The house titled solely in his name. I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. The next evening, I FaceTimed Ethan. He answered shirtless in what looked like the master bedroom, our parents' dream bedroom, towel around his neck like he just showered. Background showed the big 4-poster bed Mom had always wanted, now covered in his navy comforter. Hey sis, what's up? I didn't smile. Mom called me last night. Dad's sleeping in the guest room. She sounds off. He rolled his eyes good-naturedly. They're adjusting. Big change. You know how Dad gets with new places. Remember the cabin in Traverse City? He complained about the mattress for 2 weeks straight. This is different. She said you changed the locks. His expression flickered. Just a second. Then the grin returned. For safety, yeah. Neighborhood's changing. Lots of break-ins a few streets over. I got keyless entry, deadbolts, the works. Gave them both codes. It's easier. She said, it feels like your rules now. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Come on, I'm helping. Paying bills, mowing the lawn in the snow.
Dad's back can't handle the shovel anymore. They're retired. They shouldn't have to worry about any of it. But it's their house, Ethan. He leaned closer to the camera, voice dropping to that earnest tone he used when he wanted to win someone over. It's family's house. I'm family. I'm here full time. You're in Chicago. I stepped up so they could have their dream. Isn't that what matters? I wanted to believe him. God, I did. He looked sincere, tired even, bags under his eyes I hadn't noticed before. But something in his tone felt rehearsed. Mom mentioned the mortgage, I said carefully, that you took it out in your name. He nodded without hesitation. Yeah, cleanest way. My credit's better, lower rate. They're protected. They're not on the hook for the full thing. Just co-signers. If anything happens to me, it goes back to them. I made sure.
It sounded reasonable, almost too reasonable. Okay, I said slowly. Just take care of them, okay? They're not used to someone else calling the shots. He smiled again, softer this time. I've got them, sis. Promise. Come visit soon. We'll do Christmas here. Whole family under one roof. We hung up. I sat in the dark for a long time, laptop still open to the property record. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad in the guest room, staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. Mom whispering in the kitchen like she was afraid to be overheard. Ethan in the master bedroom, keys in his pocket, thermostat set to his preference. 8 weeks after the miracle announcement, the dream house already felt different. Small things, little rules, a mortgage no one had warned me about. I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking, that Ethan was just being the responsible one for once. But the cracks were there. Thin, hairline, almost invisible, the kind that spreads slowly until one day the whole foundation gives. And when I looked back later, that was the moment I should have started digging. Instead, I waited. Big mistake. Christmas lights were already up on Maple Lane by the 3rd week of November, twinkling like they were trying too hard to sell the season. I drove in from Chicago the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, fighting holiday traffic on I-94 the whole way. My trunk was stuffed with 2 pumpkin pies I'd baked the night before, because Mom always said store-bought tasted like regret, a bottle of decent Pinot Noir, and a vague sense of unease I couldn't quite shake since that FaceTime with Ethan. I told myself it was nothing, just the usual post-closing jitters families go through when someone new moves in. By the time I pulled into the long driveway, the house looked like a postcard, white siding glowing under strings of warm white lights, smoke curling from the chimney, Mom's old rocking chairs on the porch already decorated with plaid blankets and faux pine garland. I stepped inside to the smell of sage, roasting turkey, and cinnamon. Classic Mom. The foyer felt bigger than I remembered. High ceilings, polished hardwood, that grand staircase curving up like something out of a magazine. Ethan greeted me first, arms wide, wearing a ridiculous kiss-the-cook apron over jeans and a flannel. Big sis, you made it. Traffic suck? Always, I said, hugging him. He felt solid, steady. Too steady, maybe. Mom bustled out of the kitchen, apron dusted with flour, cheeks pink from the oven. Oh, honey, you're here early. Come in, come in. Your dad's in the den pretending he's watching football. Dad was exactly where she said, recliner angled toward the TV, volume low, eyes distant. He stood when he saw me, slower than usual, and pulled me into a hug that lingered a beat too long. Good to see you, kiddo, he murmured. His voice was quieter than I remembered, thinner. We settled into the rhythm of pre-dinner chaos, me helping Mom mash potatoes, Ethan carving the bird like he'd been practicing, Dad setting the table with the good china we only used twice a year. Conversation stayed light at first. Work updates, neighbor gossip, how the new furnace was a game changer, Ethan's words. But the air felt off, thick, like everyone was reading from the same script, but nobody believed the lines. We sat down at 6:30 sharp. Ethan took the head of the table, Dad's old spot. Dad slid into the chair to his right without comment. Mom sat across from me, fussing with napkins. I ended up at the foot, facing them all, feeling oddly like an outsider in what used to be our family table. Halfway through the turkey, juicy, perfect, Mom's gravy a religious experience, Ethan cleared his throat. The sound cut through the clink of silverware like a gavel. "I've got something to say," he announced, setting his fork down. Everyone went still.
Mom's eyes flicked to him, quick and nervous. Dad stared at his plate. "I'm staying," Ethan continued, "permanently. The house is big. The folks need someone here full-time. Yard work, maintenance, doctor runs. I'm not going back to my apartment when the lease ends next month. I'll take the upstairs suite. It's the practical thing." The room went quiet enough to hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hall. I set my wine glass down carefully. "You're moving in? Like, for good?" He nodded, smiling that easy, winning smile. "Yeah, they're retired. Dad's back acts up in the cold. Mom's blood pressure's been spiking. I can handle the bills, keep an eye on things. It's what family does." Mom nodded quickly, too quickly. "He's been such a help already. The house feels safer with him here." Dad didn't speak, just kept cutting his turkey into smaller and smaller pieces. I looked at Ethan, but this was supposed to be their dream, their space, their retirement.
His smile didn't falter. "And it is, with me here to make sure it stays that way. You're in Chicago, sis. I'm local. I'm the one who can be here every day." Something twisted in my gut. They don't need a live-in caretaker. They're not invalids. Ethan leaned back, casual. No one said they were. But let's be real. Stairs are getting harder for Dad. Mom forgets to take her meds sometimes. I'm not waiting for an emergency to step up. Mom reached over and patted Dad's hand. "He's right, honey. It's a big house, too big for just us." Dad finally looked up. His eyes were tired. "I can still climb stairs, Ellen." The table went dead silent again. Ethan broke it. "Look, I'm not trying to take over. I'm trying to protect what we all wanted for them. This house, this life. I'm paying the mortgage. I'm handling the taxes. I'm not asking for gratitude. I'm just saying it makes sense. Paying the mortgage." There it was again. Casual, like it was pocket change.
I opened my mouth to push back, but Mom cut in, voice bright and forced. "Let's not argue on Thanksgiving. We have so much to be thankful for. This beautiful home, all of us together." We ate in strained quiet after that, forks scraping plates, the occasional forced laugh over old family stories Ethan kept telling. I kept glancing at Dad. He barely touched his food. After dinner, while Ethan and Mom cleared dishes, I followed Dad out to the back porch. The air was crisp, smelling of wood smoke and wet leaves. He lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done in years, and offered me one. I shook my head. "You okay?" I asked. He exhaled smoke toward the dark yard. "House is nice. Bigger than I thought." "That's not what I asked." He took another drag. "Ethan means well, always has. But he's different lately. Talks like he owns the place already."
My heart thudded. "He changed the locks, didn't he?" Dad nodded once. "Last week. Said it was for security. Gave us new keys, codes, but I found the old spare under the flower pot this morning. He doesn't know I kept it." I stared at him. "Dad!" He looked at me then. Really looked. "I don't like feeling like a guest in my own home, kiddo. But your mom, she's scared. Scared of money running out. Scared of being a burden. Ethan tells her he's got it covered. She believes him." I swallowed hard. "And you?" "I believe he loves us, but love doesn't always look like respect." We stood there in the cold until the cigarette burned down. Inside, Ethan was laughing at something on his phone, Mom drying dishes beside him, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Later that night, after everyone went to bed, I slipped downstairs for water. The kitchen light was on. Ethan sat at the island, scrolling through his phone, a beer in hand. He looked up when I walked in. "Couldn't sleep?" "Not really." Christmas lights were already up on Maple Lane by the third week of November, twinkling like they were trying too hard to sell the season. I drove in from Chicago the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, fighting holiday traffic on I-94 the whole way. My trunk was stuffed with 2 pumpkin pies I'd baked the night before, because Mom always said store-bought tasted like regret, a bottle of decent Pinot Noir, and a vague sense of unease I couldn't quite shake since that FaceTime with Ethan. I told myself it was nothing,
just the usual post-closing jitters families go through when someone new moves in. By the time I pulled into the long driveway, the house looked like a postcard. White siding glowing under strings of warm white lights, smoke curling from the chimney, Mom's old rocking chairs on the porch already decorated with plaid blankets and faux pine garland. I stepped inside to the smell of sage, roasting turkey, and cinnamon. Classic Mom. The foyer felt bigger than I remembered. High ceilings, polished hardwood, that grand staircase curving up like something out of a magazine. Ethan greeted me first, arms wide, wearing a ridiculous kiss-the-cook apron over jeans and a flannel. "Big sis, you made it. Traffic suck?" "Always," I said, hugging him. He felt solid, steady. Too steady, maybe.
Upstairs, I lay awake listening to the house settle. Creaks in the floorboards, the furnace kicking on low because Ethan had set it that way. Somewhere down the hall, Dad was sleeping in the guest room again. Thanksgiving dinner had started with gratitude. It ended with the first real fracture. And I knew, lying there in the dark, that the cracks we'd been ignoring were about to get a lot deeper. The house on Maple Lane was still beautiful, but it no longer felt like home. Back in Chicago the Monday after Thanksgiving, the city felt colder than usual. Gray slush on the sidewalks, wind slicing through my coat like it had a personal grudge. I sat at my kitchen table, barely big enough for a laptop and a mug of instant coffee, and stared at the property records page I'd pulled up again. Ethan's name, sole owner. Mom and Dad listed only as co-signers on the mortgage. The numbers stared back at me, cold and final. I'd spent the weekend replaying that dinner in my head. Ethan at the head of the table, Dad's quiet stare, Mom's quick nods. The way Ethan said, "I'm paying the mortgage," like it was a favor instead of a power move. Every time I tried to brush it off as paranoia, a new detail surfaced. The thermostat he'd locked at 68 degrees, the no-shoes rule that made Mom tiptoe around like she was in someone else's house, the guest room Dad had quietly claimed because the master felt too gay. I couldn't let it sit. I texted my college friend Jess, the one who'd gone to law school and now worked at a small real estate firm downtown. "Hey, quick favor, can you look up a property for me? Not official, just curious." She called me back within 20 minutes. "Shoot me the address. I'll run it through the title search portal we use, off the record." I sent it, waited, paced the apartment, made more coffee I didn't drink. When she called again, her voice was careful. "Okay, so yeah, title is in Ethan Harper's name only, recorded October 15th. Mortgage originated same day with First National. Co-signers are your parents, Ellen and Robert Harper. They're on the hook if he defaults, but they have zero ownership interest. No quitclaim, no life estate, nothing giving them reversionary rights. It's clean. His house." My stomach twisted. He told Mom it was for tax reasons or something, that it was temporary. Jess snorted softly. Temporary? He could sell it tomorrow and pocket the equity. They'd get nothing unless he voluntarily gave it back. And the down payment? Looks like it came from a home equity line on your childhood house. They took out a HELOC 6 months ago, about $180K. That money went straight into this purchase. I sat down hard. They sold the old house? Not yet, but the HELOC is secured against it. If he misses payments, the bank could foreclose on the old place too. They're leveraged up to their eyeballs. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I opened a new tab and searched Ethan's name plus business. His LinkedIn popped up first, updated last month. Entrepreneur, vintage resale and consulting, helping brands scale. Vague, typical Ethan. A few Google hits, an old article about him flipping sneakers, a podcast appearance where he talked about hustle culture, nothing about financial trouble, nothing about owing anyone money. But people don't take out massive loans and put their parents on the hook unless something's wrong. I needed more. That Friday, I booked another flight. Impulse, no notice. Told work I had a family emergency. Packed light. Told myself I was just checking in. But deep down, I knew I was going to snoop. I landed Saturday morning, rented a car, drove straight to Maple Lane. Mom answered the door in her robe, surprised but happy. "Honey, you didn't say you were coming." "Wanted to surprise you," I lied, hugging her tight. She felt smaller, fragile. "Where's Dad?" "Napping. His back's been acting up. Ethan's out running errands." Perfect.
I waited until Mom went to start lunch, then slipped into what used to be Dad's office, now Ethan's workspace. The room smelled like his cologne and printer ink. Desk tidy, laptop closed, filing cabinet in the corner. I started with the top drawer. Bank statements, credit card bills, all in Ethan's name. Charges from last month alone, $4,200 on new living room furniture. Wayfair, $1,800 on a hot tub install, dated 2 weeks after closing. $3,000 on flights to Miami, round trip for 2. His name and C. Reynolds, the girlfriend he swore was just a friend. Thousands more in transfers to an account labeled CR Personal.
My hands shook as I photographed pages with my phone. Then the folder labeled Insurance, Life Policies. Mom's still listed me and Ethan as equal beneficiaries. Dad's? Updated 6 months ago. Beneficiary changed to Ethan Michael Harper, sole. Primary, irrevocable. I felt bile rise in my throat. I was still staring when the front door opened. Ethan's voice, "Mom, I got the groceries." I shoved everything back, closed the drawer quietly, and stepped into the hall like I'd been looking for the bathroom. He saw me, froze for half a second, then smiled. "Sis, you're here. Awesome. Didn't know you were coming." "Surprise visit," I said, forcing lightness. "Missed you guys." We ate lunch, turkey sandwiches, awkward small talk. Dad joined us, moving slow, wincing when he sat. Ethan kept the conversation going. Funny stories, plans for Christmas lights, how he was thinking of turning the basement into a home gym for Dad's PT. After lunch, while Mom cleared plates, I pulled Ethan aside in the living room. "Nice setup you've got here," I said quietly. "Office looks productive." He shrugged. "Gotta keep the hustle going. Bills don't pay themselves." "Speaking of bills, Mom mentioned the mortgage is in your name." His eyes narrowed just a fraction. "Yeah, like I told you, cleaner that way." "But the house isn't theirs, not even a little." He laughed, sharp. "You went digging, huh? Figures. Look, I did this for them. They were drowning in medical debt after Dad's hip scare last year. Credit cards maxed. I consolidated everything. Got them this place before the market went nuts. They're living rent-free, basically. What's the problem?" "The problem is, you own their dream. They co-signed. If your hustle tanks, it won't. But if it does, they lose everything. The old house, this one, everything." He stepped closer, voice low. "You were always too busy with your corporate job to help. I stepped up. I sacrificed my own place, my freedom. I'm here every day. You fly in for a weekend and play detective? I'm trying to protect them. From me?" He shook his head. "You're unbelievable. They trust me. Mom sleeps better knowing someone's here. Dad doesn't have to shovel snow. This is what family does." "Then why change the locks? Why set all the rules? Why put the life insurance only in your name?" His jaw tightened. "Security, practicality. And the insurance? Dad asked me to handle it. He didn't want Mom worrying." I stared at him. "Dad asked you?" "Yeah, ask him yourself." I wanted to, but Dad was back in the recliner, eyes closed, pretending to nap. That night I lay in the guest room. Ethan had given me the smaller one upstairs, listening to the house breathe. Furnace humming low, floorboards creaking. Somewhere downstairs, Ethan was on the phone, voice muffled but animated. I pulled out my phone and zoomed in on the photos I'd taken. Transfers to CR Personal, Miami flights, hot tub, furniture that looked brand new in the living room, stuff Mom would never buy for herself. This wasn't help. This was something else. I didn't sleep much. The next morning, I hugged Mom and Dad goodbye, promised to call soon. Ethan walked me to the car. "Drive safe," he said, then quieter, "and maybe stop looking for problems where there aren't any." I met his eyes. "I'm not looking for problems, Ethan. I'm finding them." He didn't smile this time. I drove away watching the house shrink in the rear view. White colonial, perfect porch, dream that wasn't a dream anymore. Back in Chicago that night, I opened my laptop again. This time I searched deeper. And what I found next made everything click into place. The cracks weren't hairline anymore. They were spreading fast, and I was finally ready to see how deep they went. I flew back to Michigan unannounced the week between Christmas and New Year's. No heads-up text to Mom, no surprise emoji to Ethan. I told work I needed a few personal days, booked the cheapest red-eye out of O'Hare, and rented the smallest car Hertz had at Detroit Metro. The whole drive to Maple Lane, 2 hours of dark highway and half-frozen rain, I kept replaying the insurance policy photo on my phone. Dad's beneficiary changed, solely to Ethan, 6 months ago. The date lined up perfectly with when they'd first started talking about needing help with the old house. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe Dad had asked for the change, that maybe it was nothing, but the knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. I parked 2 streets over, like some amateur detective in a bad Lifetime movie, and walked the rest of the way. The house looked peaceful under the streetlights, porch light on, Christmas tree glowing through the bay window Mom left so much. I used the old spare key Dad had told me about weeks earlier, the one he'd hidden under the ceramic frog in the flower pot. Ethan didn't know it existed. Neither did Mom, apparently. The door opened silently. The foyer smelled like pine needles and Ethan's cologne. House quiet. Light stemmed low. Ethan's new energy-saving routine. I slipped off my boots, padded upstairs in socks. Mom and Dad's bedroom door was closed. Guest room too. Ethan's suite at the end of the hall had the door cracked, faint blue light flickering from inside, probably his phone or laptop. I didn't go there first. I went to what used to be Dad's office. The door was unlocked. I eased it open, closed it behind me, flicked on the small desk lamp. The room looked the same as last time, tidy, almost sterile. Filing cabinet still in the corner. I pulled open the second drawer this time, the one labeled Finances in Ethan's neat block letters. Folder after folder. Tax returns, his, not theirs. Utility bills paid from his account. Then the thick one marked Statements, 2025.
I opened it. October statements first. Credit card tied to the mortgage line of credit. Charges stacked like accusations. $4,872. Wayfair. Living room sectional, coffee table, accent chairs. $2,150. Home Depot. Hot tub installation supplies, deck lighting. $1,980. Delta Airlines. Miami round trip. 2 tickets, November dates. $3,400 transfer to CR personal checking. $890 Nordstrom. Men's clothing, shoes. Another $2,200 transfer to same account. November was worse. More transfers. A $5,000 withdrawal labeled business investment, a $1,200 charge from a jewelry store in Grand Rapids, diamond stud earrings, receipt clipped inside showing delivery to C. Reynolds.
I photographed every page, hands trembling so bad the flash blurred a couple shots. Then the life insurance folder again. I flipped through. Same policy, same change. But tucked behind it, a printout of an email from the insurance company dated last July. Subject, Beneficiary Update Confirmation, Policy Number 4879201. Body, we have processed your request to remove my name as contingent beneficiary and designate Ethan Michael Harper as sole primary beneficiary on the policy for Robert J. Harper. No attachment, no signature scan, just confirmation. I felt the room tilt. I was still staring when I heard footsteps in the hall. Light, bare feet on hardwood. I killed the lamp, shoved the folder back, crouched behind the desk, heart hammering. The door opened slowly. A silhouette. Ethan. He stepped in, didn't turn on the light, just stood there for a long second, like he was listening. Then he crossed to the filing cabinet, opened the top drawer, not the one I'd been in, pulled something out, a small notebook, and left. Door clicked shut. I waited 5 full minutes before I moved. Downstairs, the kitchen light flicked on. I heard the fridge open, a bottle cap pop. Beer. He was staying up. I crept back to the guest room I was using, locked the door, sat on the bed in the dark, scrolling through the photos I'd taken. The transfers to CR Personal totaled almost $18,000 in 3 months. CR, Chloe Reynolds. The just a friend, girlfriend he'd mentioned maybe twice. The one who lived in Ann Arbor now, supposedly. I opened Instagram on silent mode, searched her handle, private account. But the profile pic, her smiling in Miami, ocean behind her, wearing earrings that looked suspiciously like the ones from the Nordstrom receipt. I felt sick. The next morning, I acted normal. Coffee with Mom, helped Dad with his crossword while he complained about the cold. Ethan was cheerful, too cheerful, made pancakes, talked about plans to refinish the basement. Gym for Dad, therapy space, maybe a little man cave. Mom beamed, Dad nodded politely. I waited until Ethan left for a quick meeting around noon. Then I sat Mom down in the living room. "Mom," I said quietly, "I need to ask you something. About the money."
Her face tightened. What money? The mortgage, the bills. Ethan's been spending a lot. Furniture, trips, transfers to someone else's account. She looked away. He's helping us, honey. The house payments are high. He covers most of it. Whatever he does with the rest is his business. But it's the house money. The loan is in his name, but you co-signed. If he's draining it, he's not draining anything. Her voice cracked. He's keeping us afloat. Your dad's meds alone are $600 a month now. The property taxes went up. We were going to lose the old house anyway. Ethan saved us. I showed her one photo, the Miami flights. This was in November, 2 tickets. He told me he was working. She stared at the screen, then at me. Chloe's a nice girl. They're serious. He deserves some happiness too. Mom, this isn't about happiness. This is about control. About him using your dream house as his personal ATM. Tears welled in her eyes. Don't say that. He loves us. He's here every day. You're not. The words landed like a slap. I left it there, didn't push. But when Ethan came back that afternoon, I watched him closer. The way he kissed Mom's cheek, the way he helped Dad to the recliner, the easy charm. And the way his eyes flicked to me every few minutes, like he was waiting for me to make a move. That night I couldn't stay. I told them I had an early flight, hugged them both. Ethan walked me to the door. "Safe travels," he said. Then, low, "You find what you were looking for?" I met his gaze, more than I wanted to. He smiled, small, cold. "Be careful what you dig up, sis. Some things are better left buried." I drove away, shaking. Back in Chicago, I sat in my apartment until dawn, photos spread across my coffee table like evidence in a trial. Furniture, hot tub, jewelry, flights, transfers, and the life insurance. Dad's policy. Only Ethan. I didn't know it then, but that folder was just the surface. The real poison was deeper, and it was already spreading. I couldn't wait any longer. The photos from the office drawer burned a hole in my phone. The insurance change, the transfers to Chloe, the Miami tickets, the hot tub nobody needed. Every piece fit into a picture I didn't want to see, but couldn't unsee. I booked the next available flight, Saturday morning out of O'Hare, landing in Detroit just after noon. No rental car this time. I took an Uber straight to Maple Lane. The driver tried small talk about the weather. I barely answered. My hands were ice cold. Stomach knotted so tight I thought I might throw up in his back seat.
I opened it. October statements first. Credit card tied to the mortgage line of credit. Charges stacked like accusations. $4,872. Wayfare, living room sectional, coffee table, accent chairs. $2,150. Home Depot, hot tub installation supplies, deck lighting. $1,980. Delta Airlines, Miami round trip, 2 tickets, November dates. $3,400 transfer to CR personal checking. $890 Nordstrom, men's clothing, shoes. Another $2,200 transfer to same account. November was worse. More transfers. a $5,000 withdrawal labeled business investment, a $1,200 charge from a jewelry store in Grand Rapids, diamond stud earrings, receipt clipped inside showing delivery to C. Reynolds.
The room went still. Mom froze in the doorway. Ethan sat up slowly, smile fading. Dad appeared at the top of the stairs, gripping the banister, moving down one careful step at a time. Ethan glanced at the papers, then at me. You broke into my office again? I used the key Dad gave me because I don't trust you anymore. Mom gasped. Sweetheart? Ethan stood. You had no right. Those are private. Private? I laughed, bitter. You changed the locks on our parents' house. You changed Dad's life insurance to yourself only. You're funneling thousands from the mortgage line to your girlfriend. You bought a hot tub and flew to Miami while Mom worries about Dad's blood pressure meds. Explain how any of that is private. Dad reached the bottom step. His face was pale. Is that true, son? Ethan's jaw worked. Dad, sit down. You shouldn't be stressing. Answer her, Dad said quietly.
Ethan exhaled through his nose. Fine. Yeah, I made some charges. The furniture? The house needed it. Looked like a model home when we moved in. Empty. Cold. I fixed that. The hot tub? For relaxation. Dad's back hurts. Thought it might help. The trips? I needed a break. I'm here 24/7. You think that's easy? And the transfers to Chloe? I asked. He shrugged. She helped with my business. Marketing stuff, consulting. It's legit. Mom stepped forward. Ethan's been paying the mortgage, honey. Almost all of it. The interest alone is... I know what the mortgage is, I cut in. I also know the house isn't in your names. It's in his. Sole owner. You're just co-signers. If he defaults, or if he decides to sell, you lose everything. Ethan laughed. Short, sharp, angry. You're destroying the family over this? They needed help. You weren't here. I was. I stepped up when no one else would. Dad's voice cracked. We signed because you said it was temporary, for tax advantages. You said we'd add our names later. Ethan turned to him. I said a lot of things to get you calm. You were panicking about the old house, medical bills piling up. I fixed it. I saved you. By owning our dream? I asked.
By owning the risk, he shot back. My credit, my name on the loan. If I go down, it's on me. But yeah, I needed the equity. My business hit a rough patch. Suppliers jacked prices. Sales dipped. I borrowed against the line to keep things afloat. It's family money. It stays in the family. Mom started crying softly. We trusted you, Ethan. He looked at her, eyes softening for a second, then hardening again when he turned back to me. You always hated that I could make things happen fast. You had to grind, scholarship by scholarship. I hustled, I won, and now you're punishing me for it. Dad sank onto the couch. The insurance, did I really ask you to change it? Ethan hesitated, just a beat. You were foggy after the last doctor visit. You said you wanted things simple. I handled it. Dad's hands shook. I don't remember that. You were on pain meds, Ethan said smoothly. You don't remember a lot from those weeks. I stepped closer. Show me the paperwork. Show me where Dad signed the change. Ethan's face flushed. You don't get to come in here and demand, show me, Dad said, voice stronger now, or I call the insurance company myself right now. The room went dead quiet.
Ethan looked from Dad to Mom to me. Then he laughed again, hollow this time. You're all unbelievable. I gave up my life for this house, for you, and this is what I get? Suspicion? Accusations? He walked to the kitchen, came back with a beer, cracked it open, took a long swallow. Fine. The business is in trouble. Yeah, big trouble. I needed cash flow. The equity line was the fastest way. But I'm turning it around. I've got deals coming. I'll pay it all back, with interest. Mom whispered, You promised. I promised to take care of you, he said, and I am. This house, this life, you're living better than you ever did in the old place. At what cost? I asked. He met my eyes.
at the cost of you staying out of it. You want to play hero? Go back to Chicago. Leave us alone. Dad stood slowly. This stops now. The spending, the rules, the changes without asking. Ethan stared at him. You need me here. You can't even shovel the driveway. I'd rather freeze than live like this, Dad said. For the first time, Ethan looked rattled, truly rattled. Mom reached for his arm. Ethan, please.
He shook her off, gently, but still. You know what? Do what you want. Contest it, call lawyers, dig through my stuff. But when the bank comes knocking because I can't make the payment next month, don't look at me. Look at her. He pointed at me. She's the one who lit the match. He stormed upstairs. Door slammed. Mom collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Dad sat beside her, arm around her shoulders, staring at the folder like it was poison. I knelt in front of them. I'm sorry, but we can't pretend anymore. Dad nodded once, tears in his eyes. I know, kiddo. I know. The living room felt smaller, colder. The Christmas tree lights blinked on and off like they didn't know the party was over. We sat there in silence for a long time. Ethan didn't come back down that night, and somewhere in the quiet, I realized the confrontation hadn't fixed anything. It had only cracked the facade wide open. What came next would either save them or break us all for good.
By owning the risk, he shot back. My credit, my name on the loan. If I go down, it's on me. But yeah, I needed the equity. My business had a rough patch. Suppliers jacked prices, sales dipped. I borrowed against the line to keep things afloat. It's family money. It stays in the family. Mom started crying softly. We trusted you, Ethan. He looked at her, eyes softening for a second, then hardening again when he turned back to me. You always hated that I could make things happen fast. You had to grind, scholarship by scholarship. I hustled, I won, and now you're punishing me for it. Dad sank onto the couch. The insurance. Did I really ask you to change it? Ethan hesitated. Just a beat. You were foggy after the last doctor visit. You said you wanted things simple. I handled it. Dad's mini-stroke hit the following Tuesday, like the universe had decided the confrontation in the living room wasn't enough drama for 1 week. I got the call from Mom at 2:17 p.m. Chicago time. Her voice was calm at first, the practiced calm of someone who spent years managing crises quietly. He's stable. It's small. Just a TIA. They call it a warning stroke. He's in the hospital overnight for observation. They're running tests. I was already booking a flight before she finished the sentence. I'm coming. Tonight. Don't panic, honey. Ethan's here. He's handling everything. That was exactly why I was panicking. I landed in Detroit after midnight, rented a car in the empty lot, and drove straight to Spectrum Health. The hall smelled like antiseptic and worry. Mom was in the family waiting area, eyes red but dry now, clutching a styrofoam cup of cold coffee. Ethan wasn't there. He went home to get some rest, she said he'd be back first thing. Dad's hands shook. I don't remember that. You were on pain meds, Ethan said smoothly. You don't remember a lot from those weeks. I stepped closer. Show me the paperwork. Show me where Dad signed the change. Ethan's face flushed. You don't get to come in here and demand. Show me, Dad said, voice stronger now. Or I call the insurance company myself. Right now. The room went dead quiet. Dad was awake when they let me in, pale under the fluorescent lights, an IV in his arm, monitors beeping softly. He looked smaller in the hospital gown, but when he saw me, his face softened. Kiddo. I sat on the edge of the bed, took his hand. It was cool, papery. You scared us. Scared myself, he admitted. Thought it was just heartburn at first. Then the room started spinning. We talked in low voices for a while, about the food, terrible, the nurses, kind, the TV, stuck on HGTV. Then Mom stepped out to call Aunt Linda, and it was just us. Dad squeezed my hand. There's something you need to know before Ethan gets back. I leaned closer. There's a safe deposit box, he whispered, at the old First Community Bank on Fulton. The keys in my fishing tackle box, the green one in the garage.
bottom compartment, under the lures. Don't tell him. Don't tell anyone yet. My pulse kicked up. What's in it?
Old papers. And wills. 2 of them. The one we made 10 years ago. Fair, equal shares, you and Ethan. And a newer one. Last year. Everything, the house, savings, insurance, goes to Ethan. My signature's on it. But he paused, eyes searching mine. I don't remember signing it. The ink looks wrong. Too perfect. Like it was traced. I felt the air leave the room. Forged? I don't know. I was on those pain pills after the hip thing. Foggy for weeks. But I never would have cut you out. Never. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Didn't want to believe it. Thought maybe I forgot. Thought maybe I was losing my mind. But after the living room fight, after seeing how he looked at those papers, I started thinking clearer. If something happens to me, nothing's happening to you. He gave a weak smile. If it does, you need to fight. For your mom, for what's right. Mom came back then. Dad squeezed my hand again, once, hard, then let go. We switched to small talk. Weather, football, anything safe. I stayed until visiting hours ended, kissed his forehead, told him I loved him. Then I drove to Maple Lane in the dark.
The house was quiet when I let myself in with the spare key. Lights off downstairs. Ethan's Jeep wasn't in the driveway. He must still be out. Mom had gone to a hotel near the hospital to get some sleep. Perfect. I went straight to the garage. The green tackle box was on the 3rd shelf, dusty, untouched for years. I opened it carefully. Lures, hooks, old line. Bottom compartment, a small manila envelope. Inside, a brass key stamped FCB Box 417. I slipped it into my pocket. Next morning, I told Mom I had errands. Drove to First Community Bank on Fulton. The branch still looked the same. Red brick, faded awning. I waited in line, heart thudding, showed my ID, signed the log. The teller led me to the vault. Box 417. Small. I turned the key, pulled it out. 2 envelopes inside. One labeled Original Will 2015. The other, Updated Will 2024. I opened the older one first. Standard stuff. House to Mom if Dad went first, then split equally between me and Ethan. Savings, cars, everything fair. Signed by both parents, notarized, witnessed. Then the new one.
4 pages. Typed. Dated July 12th, 2024. Everything. The Maple Lane property, even though it was already in Ethan's name. Remaining savings, life insurance proceeds, personal effects. Bequeathed to my son, Ethan Michael Harper, in recognition of his dedication and care. Mom got a small life estate in the house for her lifetime comfort. I got nothing. Not a mention. Signatures at the bottom. Ellen Harper, shaky but hers. Robert J. Harper. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app where I still had access to Dad's old check images from when I helped with bills 2 years ago. Zoomed in on his signature from a canceled check. Then on the will. The will signature was too clean, too uniform. The tail on the J in Harper didn't loop the same way. The cross on the T was higher. It looked practiced, copied. I photographed both, hands shaking so bad the images blurred at first. Back at the hospital that afternoon, I waited until Ethan stepped out to grab coffee. Mom was getting tea. I slipped into Dad's room alone. I showed him the photos side by side. He stared at the screen for a long time. Tears slipped down his cheeks, silent, steady. "I never signed that," he whispered. "I swear to God, I never signed that." I knelt beside the bed. "We'll fix this. Lawyer, contest it. Get the house back in your names. Freeze everything." He nodded slowly. "Your mom, she's scared. She thinks Ethan's all we have left. She signed because he told her it was for taxes, for protection. She didn't know. We'll explain, gently." Dad wiped his eyes. "He was my boy, my baby. How did it get this far?" I didn't have an answer.
Ethan came back with 2 coffees, saw my face, saw Dad's. The air changed instantly. "Everything okay?" he asked, too casual. "Fine," I said, "just talking." He set the coffees down, looked from me to Dad. "You two look like you've seen a ghost." Dad met his eyes. "Maybe we have."
Ethan's smile slipped, just for a second. Then it was back, bright, practiced. "Get some rest, Dad. We'll figure everything out." He left the room. Dad looked at me. "He knows we know." "Yeah," I said quietly. "He does." That night, I didn't go back to the house. I got a room at the same hotel as Mom. We sat on her bed, 2 styrofoam cups between us, and I told her about the will, the signature, the forgery. She cried so hard she couldn't speak for 10 minutes. When she finally did, her voice was small. "I thought he was saving us." "He might have started that way," I said, "but somewhere it turned into something else." She nodded. "What do we do now?" "We fight," I told her, quietly, with lawyers, with proof. We get Dad home, we get the house back, and we keep Ethan away until it's done. She reached for my hand, held it tight. Outside the window, snow started falling, soft, silent, covering everything. The hidden will was out.
The truth was surface, and the real battle, the one that would decide if our family survived, was just beginning. The hospital discharged Dad 2 days later with a new prescription, a list of follow-up appointments, and strict orders to rest. No stress, no arguments, no heavy lifting. Mom drove him home in her old sedan while I followed in the rental, watching their taillights disappear around the curve toward Maple Lane. I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine running, staring at the house that used to feel like safety. Now it looked like a trap, wrapped in white siding and holiday lights that hadn't been taken down yet. Ethan's Jeep was parked out front, crooked as always. He texted Mom that morning, "I'll have everything ready, fresh sheets, soup on the stove." Thoughtful on the surface, calculating underneath. I walked in. The smell of chicken noodle hit me first, comforting, familiar, Mom's recipe. Ethan was in the kitchen, apron on, stirring a pot like nothing had happened. He looked up, smiled. "Hey sis, perfect timing, Dad's favorite." Dad was already in the recliner, blanket over his lap, remote in hand, but not pressing buttons. Mom hovered nearby, fluffing pillows that didn't need fluffing. The tension was thick enough to choke on. I set my bag down. "We need to talk, all of us." Ethan turned off the burner. He just got home, let him breathe. "No," Dad said from the recliner, voice weak but steady. "We talk now." Ethan wiped his hands on a dish towel, slow, deliberate. "Fine. Living room?" We gathered like we were about to discuss holiday plans. Mom on the couch beside Dad, me in the armchair. Ethan standing, arms crossed, leaning against the fireplace mantel like he owned the place. Because on paper, he did. I started. "The will in the safe deposit box is forged. Dad didn't sign it. The signature doesn't match. We have proof." Ethan's face didn't change at first. Then a slow shake of the head. "You're still on this? After everything?"
Dad pulled the printed comparison from his robe pocket, my photos blown up at the hospital business center. He held them out. "Look, my real signature from last year's taxes. Then this one. Different loop on the J, different pressure. I didn't sign it, son." Ethan took the pages, scanned them, handed them back without expression. "Pain meds mess with memory. You were out of it for weeks. You probably don't remember." "I remember enough to know I'd never cut my daughter out," Dad said. "Never." Mom's voice trembled. "Ethan, did you?" He looked at her, eyes softening the way they always did when he needed her on his side. "Mom, come on. You signed it too. You were there. You agreed it made sense. Protecting the house, keeping things simple if something happened to Dad. You said it yourself. Ethan's the one here. He should have it." Mom's face crumpled. "I said that because you told me it was temporary, for taxes, for Medicaid planning. You never said it would cut her out completely." Ethan shrugged. "Details. Point is, it's legal, notarized, witnessed. You can't just undo it because you changed your mind."
I stood up. "It's not legal if it's forged. And we're contesting the deed, too. I already talked to a lawyer, a real estate attorney in Grand Rapids.
We're filing to set aside the transfer, claim undue influence, fraud. The co-signing was under false pretenses. You told them it was temporary. You hid the full ownership. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You hired a lawyer without telling us? You stopped being us the minute you changed the locks and started spending house money on your girlfriend. He laughed, cold, short. Chloe has nothing to do with this. She has everything to do with it. Thousands in transfers, jewelry, trips, while Dad's on fixed income and Mom's scared to ask for grocery money. Mom whispered, Ethan, please tell me it's not true. He turned to her. I needed cash flow. Business was tanking. I borrowed against the equity line, same as any homeowner would. I was going to pay it back. I still am. With what? I asked. You said deals are coming. What deals? He didn't answer. Dad spoke quietly. Son, if you forged my name, if you lied to your mother, that's not just money. That's betrayal. Ethan's jaw clenched. Betrayal? I gave up my apartment, my freedom, my life to be here. I cook, I clean, I drive you to doctors, I pay the bills so you don't lose this place. And now I'm the villain because I protected my future too? Your future shouldn't come at the cost of theirs, I said. He stepped closer. You think you can waltz in from Chicago, play savior, and take it all away? You weren't here when Dad couldn't get out of bed, when Mom cried herself to sleep over medical bills. I was. And you used that to take everything, I shot back. The room went silent, except for the grandfather clock ticking. Then Ethan pulled out his phone. You want to play hardball? Fine. He tapped the screen a few times, held it up. A PDF loaded. Restraining order paperwork, already filed.
The truth was surface, and the real battle, the one that would decide if our family survived, was just beginning. The hospital discharged Dad 2 days later with a new prescription, a list of follow-up appointments, and strict orders to rest. No stress, no arguments, no heavy lifting. Mom drove him home in her old sedan while I followed in the rental, watching their taillights disappear around the curve toward Maple Lane. I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine running, staring at the house that used to feel like safety. Now it looked like a trap, wrapped in white siding and holiday lights that hadn't been taken down yet. Ethan's Jeep was parked out front, crooked as always. He'd texted Mom that morning, I'll have everything ready, fresh sheets, soup on the stove. Thoughtful on the surface, calculating underneath. I walked in. The smell of chicken noodle hit me first. Comforting, familiar, Mom's recipe. Ethan was in the kitchen, apron on, stirring a pot like nothing had happened. He looked up, smiled. Hey sis, perfect timing, Dad's favorite.
The words hit harder than the restraining order. Dad reached for her hand. Ellen. She pulled away, gently. I'm sorry, honey. I can't lose this house, not after everything. I stared at her, then at Ethan. His face was calm now, victorious almost. I'll go, I said quietly. But this isn't over. The lawyer's already moving. The forgery evidence goes to the probate court. The financials go to the bank. They'll freeze the line of credit. You won't be able to spend another dime. Ethan smiled thinly. Try it. See how far you get. I grabbed my bag, walked to the door, stopped, looked back at Dad. I love you. I'm not stopping. He nodded, eyes wet. I know, kiddo. I left, drove to a cheap motel off the highway, sat on the stiff bed and cried, for the first time since this started. Not out of fear, out of grief, for the brother I used to know, for the parents who were too scared to fight, for the family that was splintering faster than I could glue it back. The next morning, Mom texted, I'm sorry. He says he'll take care of us. Please don't come back yet. It's too much. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then I called the lawyer. File everything, I said. Emergency motion, fraud, undue influence, forgery, whatever it takes. She paused. This could get ugly. Family court, depositions, maybe criminal if the forgery holds. Good, I said. Let it get ugly. I hung up. The breaking point wasn't the restraining order. It was the moment Mom chose silence over truth. And in that moment, I realized saving them might mean losing them first. But I wasn't walking away. Not yet. The restraining order landed like a gut punch, but it didn't stop me. It lit a fire.
The temporary paperwork meant I couldn't go near the house or contact Mom and Dad directly without risking arrest. Ethan had played it smart. Vague claims of harassment, screenshots of my texts asking questions, photos of me in the office that he must have taken secretly. The judge signed it ex parte. No hearing, no chance for me to speak. Court date set for February 14th. Valentine's Day. Fitting.
I stayed in the motel another night, then drove back to Chicago. The whole way I kept one hand on the wheel, the other scrolling through lawyer emails. My attorney, Sarah Klein, mid-40s, sharp as a blade, moved fast. She filed an emergency motion to contest the deed transfer, alleging fraud, undue influence, and lack of capacity on my parents' part when they co-signed. She also requested a forensic document examiner for the will signatures and a temporary injunction to freeze the home equity line of credit. If we can prove forgery, she told me over the phone, the criminal referral is automatic. Prosecutors love elder financial abuse cases. I spent the next 3 weeks in limbo. Work suffered. I was on autopilot, staring at spreadsheets while my mind replayed every family dinner, every hug, every time Ethan smiled too wide. Mom texted once, "We're okay. Please don't make this worse. He's taking care of us." I didn't reply. It hurt too much. Then the break came. Sarah called. Chloe Reynolds contacted our office, Ethan's girlfriend. She wants to talk, off the record, but she's willing to provide recordings. My heart slammed against my ribs. Recordings? Audio. She says she's been taping him for months. Protection, she called it. She's scared. Says things escalated after the restraining order. She's ready to hand them over if we can guarantee anonymity and protection from retaliation. I flew back to Michigan the next day, landed in Grand Rapids this time, closer to where Chloe lived. We met in a quiet coffee shop on the east side of town. She was smaller than her Instagram photos. Early 30s, dark hair pulled back, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep. She slid a USB drive across the table without preamble. "I didn't know how bad it was at first," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "He told me the house was his investment, that he was helping his parents. Then the yelling started, the late-night calls. He'd come home drunk, ranting about how you were trying to ruin him, how he'd fixed everything and no one appreciated it." I took the drive. What's on it? Conversations. Him bragging, planning. He didn't know I was recording. My phone in my pocket, voice memos running. Some are just us talking. Others, he's on speaker with business contacts, laughing about how easy it was to get your dad to sign when he was out of it, how your mom would do anything to keep the house. One clip, he says, clear as day. "Once the old man's gone, it's all mine. She'll never fight. Too soft. And if she does, I've got the paperwork locked down." I felt cold sweat break out across my back. He said that. She nodded. Multiple times, different nights. I kept recording because I was afraid of what he'd do if I left, afraid of what he'd do to them if he lost control. We talked for an hour. She gave me dates, contexts, said she'd moved out 2 weeks earlier, crashing with a friend. She was terrified Ethan would find out she'd talked. I thanked her, drove straight to Sarah's office. We listened to the files together. The first clip, Ethan's voice, slurred, wait at night. She thinks she's so smart, digging through drawers, but the will's ironclad. Dad was high as a kite when he signed. Mom too scared to say no. Once probate hits, it's done. House sells, I walk with 7 figures. They get a condo somewhere, mercy. Another, the insurance payout's clean. $500,000 if it looks natural. But I don't need to rush. Just wait. Stress does the work. Sarah stopped the playback. "This is explosive. We're turning it over to the prosecutor's office today. Elder financial exploitation, forgery, potential conspiracy to commit fraud, or worse. They'll open a criminal investigation immediately." The judge moved fast. Emergency hearing 3 days later. Ethan was served at the house. The temporary restraining order against me was vacated, a new one issued against him. He was ordered to vacate Maple Lane within 48 hours, the home equity line frozen, title frozen pending investigation. Neighbors told me later he left in a rage, slamming doors, throwing suitcases into the Jeep, yelling at Mom through the window. She didn't come out. Dad did, leaning on his cane, watching until the taillights disappeared down the street. Mom called me that night, first time in weeks, voice small. "He's gone. The police came, took his laptop, some files.
He screamed that we betrayed him, that we'd regret it. I drove over. The house felt hollow without him. Mom opened the door, eyes swollen. Dad was in the recliner, looking older but clearer. We sat together on the couch, first time in months without Ethan between us. "I'm so sorry," Mom whispered. "I was scared of losing the house, scared of being alone. He made it sound like you were the enemy." Dad reached for my hand. "We were wrong, both of us. We let fear win." I hugged them both, tight, for a long time. The prosecutor moved quicker than anyone expected. Chloe's recordings were gold, time-stamped, clear, admissible. Combined with the forged will, mismatched signatures from the examiner's report, and the financial trail showing thousands siphoned for personal use, they had enough for felony charges: financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, forgery, uttering and publishing, legal term for passing a forged document, and wire fraud for the transfers. Ethan was arrested 2 weeks later at a cheap motel in Lansing. Bail sat high. He didn't fight it, just sat in the courtroom, head down, no charm left.
Mom and Dad moved back to the old house temporarily. I paid the rent on it while the Maple Lane title sorted itself. The bank agreed to unwind the mortgage mess once the fraud was proven. The property would revert to my parents' names, equity stripped of Ethan's unauthorized draws. I visited every weekend. We talked, really talked, about trust, about fear, about how love can blind you when it's mixed with desperation. One night, Dad looked at me across the kitchen table. "You saved us, kiddo. But the hardest part isn't the legal stuff. It's forgiving myself for trusting the wrong son." Mom nodded, and forgiving him. Not today, maybe not ever, but someday. I didn't say anything. I wasn't there yet. The truth had come out, ugly, raw, public. But the healing? That was going to take longer than any court date. And somewhere, in a county jail holding cell, Ethan was finally facing the mirror he'd spent years avoiding. The house on Maple Lane stood empty for now, waiting, like the rest of us.
It's been a little over a year now since the day the sheriff's deputy walked Ethan out of Maple Lane in handcuffs. The house sold last spring, not to some young family dreaming of Sunday drives past it like we used to, but to a quiet, retired couple from Ohio who wanted space for grandkids and a garden. Mom and Dad signed the papers without fanfare. They didn't cry. They just looked tired, relieved, and ready to close the chapter. The money from the sale, after paying off what was left of the fraudulent mortgage and legal fees, went into a modest annuity and a small down payment on a single-story ranch in the same suburb. No bay window, no wraparound porch, just one level, wide doorways, and a backyard big enough for Dad's tomatoes. They call it home now. Small, safe, theirs. I visit every other weekend. The drive from Chicago feels shorter these days, less dread, more routine. We sit on their new patio, plastic chairs with cushions Mom picked out herself, and talk about ordinary things: the price of gas, the neighbor's new dog, how the arthritis in Dad's hands is responding to the new cream. We don't talk about Ethan much, not because we're avoiding it, because there isn't much left to say. He pleaded to 3 felonies last fall: financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, forgery, and uttering and publishing. The prosecutor dropped the conspiracy charge in exchange for no trial. He got 7 years, eligible for parole after 4. He's at a medium security facility up near Muskegon. Mom writes him once a month, short letters about the weather, Dad's health, nothing emotional. She says it's for her peace, not his. Dad doesn't write at all. He told me once, over coffee in their new kitchen, "I loved that boy more than anything, but love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. I'm done paying that price."
I got one text from Ethan 6 months ago. No greeting. Just, "I was desperate. Business was collapsing. I panicked. I love them. I'm sorry." I stared at it for 10 minutes, thumb hovering over reply. Then I deleted it, blocked the number. Not out of hate, out of self-preservation. Some apologies come too late, and some wounds don't heal clean. The lawyer fees wiped out most of what I'd saved, but Sarah Klein became a friend. She still checks in every few months. "You did the right thing," she says. "Most families don't. They let it slide because blood is thicker than justice. You chose justice. That's rare." Maybe,
But it didn't feel heroic. It felt like surgery, cutting out the rot before it killed the patient. Mom and Dad are healing, slowly. Mom gardens again. She's planted hydrangeas along the back fence because they remind her of her mother. Dad reads his war history books until midnight if he wants. No one turns off the lamp at 9:30 anymore. They laugh more. Small laughs, the kind that sneak up on you. One Sunday in October, just like the month it all started, Mom pulled me aside while Dad napped in his recliner. We stood in her tiny kitchen, sunlight slanting through the window over the sink. "I still dream about Maple Lane sometimes," she said quietly. "The bay window, the porch. I wake up and for a second I think we're still there. Then I remember." I nodded. "Me too."
She looked at me, eyes soft but steady. "I was wrong to choose him over you. I was scared of money, of being alone, of losing the dream we'd held on to so long. I let fear make the decisions. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Truly." I hugged her, tight. "I know, and I forgive you, both of you." She pulled back, searching my face. "Do you forgive him?" I took a breath. "I don't hate him. I pity him. He had every chance to do right, and he chose wrong, over and over. That's on him. But I won't carry hate for the rest of my life. It's too heavy. I let it go. Doesn't mean I let him back in." She nodded slowly. "That's fair. More than fair." We went back to the living room. Dad woke up, stretched, asked if we wanted to watch the Lions game. We did. Yelled at bad calls, laughed when they fumbled. Normal. Ordinary. Precious. Later, as I drove home under a sky turning bruise purple, I thought about the lesson that had cost us so much. Love isn't blind trust. It's not handing over the keys to your life because someone shares your blood. Loyalty isn't silence when something's wrong. And family isn't who you're born to. It's who protects your heart when the world gets dark. Ethan didn't protect ours. He exploited it. And in doing so, he taught me the hardest truth. Sometimes the people closest to you become the biggest threat. Sometimes saving the ones you love means standing against the one you thought you'd never have to fight. The house on Maple Lane is gone. Someone else's dream now. But what we rebuilt in its place is stronger, smaller, real. Mom and Dad are safe. They're loved. They're free. And me? I sleep better. Not perfect, but better. I still check the property records sometimes, just to make sure. Old habits. But mostly I look forward to Thanksgivings with just the three of us, to Christmases without tension thick as fog, to birthdays where no one has to pretend. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering and choosing to live anyway. I choose that every day. In that, more than any house or any inheritance, is the real miracle. The one that tore us apart and quietly, painfully, put us back together. Different, but whole.